Amelia Earhart, one of the most famous women in history, has been an inspiration for girls and women across the globe. After breaking many records and shattering gender stereotypes in aviation, she had set herself the incredible goal of circumnavigating the globe by plane. On the 2nd of July 1937, Earhart was somewhere over the vast Pacific Ocean and was desperately searching for a tiny island. Her fuel was running low, radio contact was becoming increasingly difficult, and then came one of the most famous transmissions in aviation history. "We must be on you, but cannot see you." Moments later, the radio fell silent. Amelia Earhart had vanished. Despite one of the largest operations ever launched at the time, neither she nor her aircraft have ever been conclusively found. So what really happened to Amelia Earhart? Before we get into today's video, just a reminder to like and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. I make videos on true crime, mysteries and the paranormal, so if that sounds right up your street, consider joining the community. Let's get back into it. Amelia Mary Earhart was born on the 24th of July 1897 in Atchison, Kansas, and from a young age was an adventurous girl who enjoyed the outdoors, sports and mechanics. Her education was disrupted and she frequently moved due to her father's unstable employment and struggles with alcoholism. During World War I, she trained as a nurse's aide in Toronto, helping wounded soldiers. Earhart's passion for flying began after a brief aeroplane ride in 1920, which inspired her to take flying lessons with an instructor. She took on piloting like a moth to a flame and earned her National Aeronautics Association licence in 1921, setting her first record in 1922 as the first woman to fly solo above 14,000 feet. In 1928, she became the first female passenger to cross the Atlantic, and in 1932 made history as the first woman to fly solo non-stop across the Atlantic Ocean, earning the Distinguished Flying Cross. She also became the first person to fly solo from Hawaii to the US mainland and set numerous other aviation records. Earhart was a strong advocate for women in aviation, co-founding the 99s, an organisation for female pilots, and promoting commercial air travel. By 1937, Earhart wasn't just a pilot, she was one of the most famous women in the world, but she wasn't finished pushing the boundaries of flight. Her next ambition was extraordinary: to become the first woman to fly around the world. The planned route would cover around 29,000 miles, taking Earhart across multiple continents and vast stretches of open ocean. At a time when aviation technology was still in its early years, it was considered one of the most ambitious flights ever attempted. She wouldn't be making the journey alone though. Joining her was Fred Noonan, an experienced navigator who would help chart routes across the Pacific. His job was crucial. Without modern GPS or satellite navigation, pilots relied on maps, radio signals and celestial navigation to determine their position. Over the following weeks, Earhart and Noonan successfully completed much of the journey. They flew through South America, crossed Africa, continued through India and Southeast Asia, before eventually reaching Lae, New Guinea. By this point, they had completed roughly 22,000 miles of the trip. Just one of the most challenging sections remained. Their next destination was Howland Island, and that was where the real challenge began. The island was tiny, just over 1.5 miles long, and sitting alone in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Finding it from the air was often compared to finding a needle in a haystack. To make matters worse, the flight from Lae to Howland Island would be the longest of the entire journey, over 2,500 miles across open ocean, with almost no visual landmarks to guide them. If they missed the island, there would be nowhere else to land. It was a flight that demanded precision, teamwork, and a little luck. Unfortunately, as history would soon show, something did go terribly wrong. As Earhart and Noonan approached Howland Island on the morning of the 2nd of July 1937, radio messages suggested they were close, but they couldn't see the island and time was running out. Everything suggested they should have been close to their destination. Waiting for them was the USCGC Itasca, a Coast Guard ship positioned just off the island. Its crew had been tasked with helping guide Earhart to the island using radio communication and smoke signals. But almost immediately, problems began to emerge. Although the crew aboard the Itasca could hear many of Earhart's radio messages, she appeared unable to hear many of their replies. As the flight continued, Earhart's transmissions became increasingly urgent. She reported flying at an altitude of around 1,000 feet, suggesting she may have descended in the hope of spotting the island. Then came one of her most famous messages. "We must be on you, but cannot see you." She continued by saying gas is running low. Although historians debate the exact wording and whether gas is running low was actually transmitted in that message, it's clear from the radio logs that fuel was becoming a serious concern. A short time later, Earhart sent what is believed to be her final confirmed transmission. "We are on the line 157 to 337. We are running north and south." This referred to a navigational line that Noonan had calculated. Believing they were close to the island, Earhart and Noonan were flying back and forth along this line, hoping it would eventually come into view. But it never did. After that final message, there was silence. The world didn't yet realise that it just heard the last known words of one of its greatest aviators. When Earhart's aircraft failed to arrive, concern quickly turned into alarm. The United States launched what was, at the time, one of the largest and most expensive search and rescue operations in history. Led by the United States Navy and United States Coast Guard, the search involved ships, aircraft, and hundreds of personnel combing vast areas of the Pacific Ocean. For more than 2 weeks, search crews covered an enormous stretch of ocean around the island, but the Pacific is unimaginably vast. Even if Earhart had come down relatively close to her intended destination, finding a single aircraft in millions of square miles of open ocean was an almost impossible task. Despite the scale of the operation, nothing conclusive was ever found. Eventually, with no new leads and no evidence to guide them, the official search was called off. For many people, this is what transformed the case from a tragic aviation accident into one of history's greatest mysteries. If the plane had been found, there would be likely very little debate today. Instead, the lack of physical evidence created a vacuum, one that has been filled with countless theories, expeditions, and investigations ever since. Over the decades, countless theories have emerged, but 3 in particular have received the most attention. The most widely accepted is known as the crash and sink theory. According to the theory, Earhart and Noonan never found Howland Island. Their final radio transmissions suggest they believed they were close, but without being able to see the island or receive clear radio guidance, they may have simply flown past it. Eventually, their aircraft would have run out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific. Many aviation historians support this theory because it closely aligns with the known evidence. Their increasingly urgent radio messages, reports that fuel was running low, and the complete loss of contact shortly afterwards. It's no surprise that the biggest challenge is the ocean itself. The Pacific is so vast and deep that even today it will be extremely difficult to locate an aircraft that disappeared also 90 years ago. Another theory suggested is that Earhart and Noonan didn't crash into the open ocean at all, but instead may have managed to land on an island called Niku Maroro, which is a coral island around 350 miles southeast of Howland. Over the years, researchers have found fragments of old aircraft material, personal items dating from the 1930s, and bones discovered in the 1940s that were initially believed to belong to a man. Decades later, some researchers argued that the measurements taken from those bones were more consistent with a woman of Earhart's build. However, the original bones since have been lost, meaning they can't be tested using modern DNA analysis, and because of this, the theory remains unproven. Arguably the most controversial theory claims that Earhart and Noonan survived the flight but were captured by Japanese forces in the Pacific. According to the theory, they either landed or crashed on Japanese territory and were taken prisoner. Over the years, various photographs and witness accounts have been cited as possible evidence, but historians have found no reliable documentation confirming that Earhart was ever captured. Many of the photographs once thought to support the theory have since been shown to predate her disappearance or have alternative explanations. Nevertheless, each theory attempts to explain the same unanswered question using the limited evidence available. After all this time, new expeditions are still being launched to find out what happened to those pilots. Researchers continue to analyse old evidence, and fresh theories regularly make headlines. So why does this mystery continue to fascinate? Part of the answer lies in who Amelia Earhart was. As one of the most famous women in the world, her disappearance became international news almost instantly. If someone of her status could simply vanish without a trace, it made people face the fact that the ocean doesn't discriminate. It takes what it wants. But it's also a lack of certainty that keeps the story alive. There are compelling theories and there have been countless searches, but no wreckage, no confirmed final resting place, or one sole explanation that everyone accepts. So what really happened to Amelia Earhart? And is the truth still waiting to be discovered, or has all the evidence eroded away, lost forever in the depths of the ocean? Somewhere beyond Amelia Earhart's final radio transmission lies the truth. Whether we'll ever find it is a question that continues to captivate the world. And that is the case of Amelia Earhart. Such a famous case that I feel like everyone has heard of, right? But we still have no idea what happened to her, which is absolutely fascinating and terrifying. But yeah, do let me know what you thought of this one. And if you have any suggestions of future videos, then please also let me know. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.